I'd like to call the Appomattox County Board of Supervisors meeting to order. We welcome every one of you that is in attendance. And at this time, we will have our pledge of allegiance immediately following our invocation.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Eternal and all-wise God, we thank you for this opportunity to serve you, to serve this community. We ask you for a word of wisdom, a word of knowledge. We might do the business of this county. God, we acknowledge you, and we believe that you will direct our path. For us in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Next is setting of the agenda. Anyone have any items like to be added to the agenda? Ms. Adams?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Number 8, we are scheduling the budget public hearing. Also, at the same time, if there's no intent of changing the tax levy, could we insert that into the motion that we advertise the same tax levy?
Okay, so that's be 8A, tax levy.
Well, it could be a portion of the motion in number 8.
Okay. Any other items? You don't have any more?
No, sir.
Oh, okay. Anyone else? Okay. We'll engage in our budget work session. First, let me back up, put them in reverse. And put, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Chairman, I move we approve the agenda as altered.
Is that second?
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, now we will engage in our work session. Ms. Adams?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. As you know, we have not received final numbers from the state, so what we have put together as staff is a proposed budget. There are 3 or 4 items in that proposed budget that we have put in a projected number, but we would like the board's discussion on finalizing that for advertisement. So if the board is interested in setting a special meeting next week for about an hour, just to review some of these items that we need to finalize, we're still in the same timeline to go ahead and advertise it for a public hearing on the 15th. So I would entertain that the board consider that. Also, in preparation for that meeting, we've given you 3 or 4 handouts. And those handouts are the outside agency request and the department budget request. It looks like this. Everybody has it. You will notice that we've highlighted the items that were not funded in the proposed budget, and we've also highlighted in green the ones that were funded. So we would need for you to review that for accuracy and make sure that we align with the board's wishes on how you would like to fund those departments or not fund them. We did meet with some of you individually, and we discussed some of these, so there were a few changes, and that's notated on those sheets as well. The other thing is I've just given you a breakdown for your information, but in the proposed budget, I put in there where the monies come from to show you the percentages. And I will say that we're looking at a budget of $53,401,020. That is a combined budget with the school system. And the local taxpayer puts in about almost $20 million of that 53. The other sources are from the state, the federal government, and then some other local sources. Also, on the second page of that handout, how are we spending our money in FY '24? And as you'll notice on that, I've got the amount that's projected to be spent in those departments and the percentages of those expenditures. If you have any questions about it, you can ask that at this time. And also, there's a notation that the next slide has to do with the county operations, and we actually broke that into the categories that we're audited on. So just to see what percentage of the taxpayers' money is going where, you can refer to the third page on that.
You've done a good job on putting this together, Ms. Adams.
Well, we kept it kind of simple because sometimes if you say judicial administration, you're not exactly sure what departments we're talking about. So what we tried to do is, like I said, align with the way it is in the Department of Accounts and the way that it's audited in our annual audit. That way you can tell, where these percentages are. And if somebody says that you don't support certain areas, then you've got a quick reference and say, oh, yeah, we give 10% or whatever to, these entities. So if there are any questions, please let me know. We've got a projection on school funding. Like I said, it hasn't been finalized yet, but that would be up for discussion also. And there are probably 3 or 4 more other items that we probably need to dig in deeper and talk about as a group.
So,
Are there any questions?
no, excuse me, go ahead.
Is the board in favor of having another meeting, or would you go ahead and like to go into the department discussion tonight?
That's what I was going to ask.
Okay,
Yeah.
I mean, it's totally up to the board. We have like many agenda items, so I didn't want to belay the discussion if you wanted to move through the meeting.
Is next week kind of suit everybody, or? And what night? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
I'm not available Thursday.
How about Tuesday?
That would be, what, 25th, I think?
That'll be the 25th.
Okay.
Okay. Time, 6 p.m. Okay.
25th? Everybody in
ma'am.
favor of that? Okay. In the county administration office.
Possible.
Com-
6.
6 o'clock. And further, and later on in the meeting, you'll have a motion to go ahead and set the public hearing for the 15th. You'll be able to do that. That meeting doesn't change our requirements for advertising or anything. Because we will not advertise until you have that meeting next week, and then we have enough time frame prior to the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Hinkle.
I got a question going back to this budget packet. Did you say there was an outside agency request sheet in here too? Because all I have is department, no, I don't have a sheet that looks like that.
It's the second sheet.
It's in yellow.
It's not stapled, it's a single sheet.
I'll give you mine.
Mine is too. You talking about this page?
No, it's another little page. Yeah, I don't know.
Little?
We'll email it just in case
Oh, boy,
you don't have those.
yes. That'll give us time to digest what we have before.
Well, we wanted to make sure that everyone had a clear understanding of the process we used and where we are with it, so that there are no misconceptions once the budget is advertised.
Right.
Sounds
Anything-
good, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Anything else, Ms. Adams?
No, sir, if the board doesn't have questions.
Any member have a question in regards to the budget?
We don't need a motion for the
Yeah, we do.
What's that?
Yeah, is there a motion to meet Monday night at, the 25th? I mean
Tuesday.
Tuesday night, 25th at 6 o'clock? Is that second? Second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All right. Well, we can enter to our citizen public comment. This time it's provided by the board to allow citizens the opportunity to address the board on issues of importance to the citizen. No individual citizen shall be permitted to address the board for more than 3 minutes. Uh-huh.
Yeah, one.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Joey Purcell?
Mrs. Mrs.
Oh, excuse me. Please state your name and address for the record.
It's
please.
Joy Purcell, 1867 Narrow Passage Road in Spout Spring. We're representing the Backstreet Rods and Customs. Normally, we have the parking lot that the police department has, and because the American Legion has come in there, they're doing a special for the veterans, big giant thing for them. We're not able to use that parking lot, which puts us in a position where we have to find another area. I talked to Susan last week, and we discussed a couple of places. We do have the church parking lot, the Methodist church parking lot. However, it only holds about 40 parking spots, and last year we had about 200 cars. So it's a big drawing for the Appomattox on Sunday. We did talk about the health department parking area up there on the corner, and also the lower level of the county administration office for parking there. So on Sunday, they don't have a whole lot of traffic coming through and, a whole lot of parking issues, so we don't think that would be a problem as far as parking for the people that are coming in. So we're hoping we'll be able to do that.
Make sure I got the dates right. It's Saturday and
It's Sunday only.
Just-
Yeah, just Sunday. Yeah, because like I said, we don't have a whole lot of traffic with parking issues on Sunday as we do on Saturday, so.
Any questions?
I think that's references number 7 in the board book. We can help assure that the areas are blocked off so that they can use it specifically for the car show.
Yeah, I can't think of anything going on with the health department.
People just park there, but if we block it off so that, and that way they have an easier.
Yeah, easier
exit to
access, because that was a
leave.
problem for
Yeah.
the guys coming in and out of there when the show was, when they wanted to leave, there was still a lot of people running around, and, we had issues with people being afraid they're gonna get, run over.
Yeah. So basically, they're asking for the use of the county properties to be able to use it for the car show on Sunday.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Okay, is there any questions on this subject? From anyone? Is there a motion then to approve the usage of the county property for Sunday, October the 15th, 2023? If not, is there a motion to approve?
So we jumping straight to number 7?
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve the request to allow the use of the county parking facilities for that Railroad Festival car show.
Motion been duly made, is that second?
Second.
Discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I do have one comment. This is gonna be the lot, the lower level behind the administration building, is that right? I just wanna make sure that we leave a spot somewhere over next to the sheriff's office in case someone needs to go to the magistrate's office.
Okay.
And I'm assuming that would be over there by the sheriff's office, and maybe they're not planning on using that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Susan talked about that upper level, they'll still be able to have access. We won't be, the driveway comes here, so I would assume this area right here where the parking is right there directly in front of the shop, the sheriff's department, but we can do the other area there, and she said we couldn't use the upper level of the other because of the courtyard. They have stuff going on in there, so we would just be using that very bottom part.
Questions?
I think they need to be commended on how the car show has grown.
Oh, yes.
Like they said, last year was about 200, and I think Corey and Joey are kind of sponsoring this whole thing and coordinating it, so kudos to them.
Okay, motion been duly made and second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed likewise. Okay. Is there anyone else who'd like to address the board who failed to sign up? Okay. Moving right along, we have the pleasure of Mr. Robert Brown's appearance here from VDOT. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Chairman Carter. This is our time of year where we get into revising our secondary road 6-year plan. And that is, I just want to present you with a draft copy of it tonight. Just to go over it prior to setting the date for the public hearing. This
Thank you, sir.
What you have before you, you have one sheet that is a what we call the rural rustic priority list. We'll talk about that last. But if you flip over and unfold the 11 by 17 sheet, that is a draft of the proposed secondary road rural rustic priority list 6-year plan. And here you'll see the projects that we are working on. And across the very top of it, you will see our allocations for our next, for FY '24 through '29. Unfortunately, our allocations have been reduced, not what they were in previous years. And that's partly because of funding higher construction programs and additional monies that go into VDOT maintenance. But it's also because we have gotten along so well paving unpaved roads in Appomattox County. To date, there are only about 24 miles of unpaved roads left in Appomattox County. So, we are doing very well, have done very well over the years. If you look at the priority, the column all the way to the left, you'll see them as priority 201, 202, 203, and 204, and 205. The first priority you see is Dreaming Creek, Route 605. That project has been completed. We built that road last year. It's hard surfaced. It's just waiting financial closure. We haven't closed it out financially, so it has to remain in the plan. But if you look at the second priority, which will be the first road we build this year, is Route 709 Hawk Lane. That project is will be fully funded as of July 1 of this year. And we are planning, we have gotten construction authorization, so we should be starting construction on that road very soon. The next priority is the first section of Hancock Road, Route 644. We are looking at doing a 1.5 mile section of that. We may be able to start that this year if we have balances from Dreaming Creek that we can transfer. But if not, that one will be next year. It doesn't start getting funding until FY '24. Then the next priority is Route 675 Cedar Bend Road. That is projected to start getting funding in FY '25. And then you'll see the last road that we have in this proposed draft of the 6-year plan is Hancock Road, and that is a 2.15-mile section, and that should be the remainder of Hancock Road to get it paved all the way through. And of course, that's in the latter years. Like I said, our allocations have gone down quite a bit, and it will take longer to fund these projects. But this is a draft of the plan, and the order that you see these routes being added into the 6-year plan is the order that the previous boards have prioritized VDOT to hard surface these roads. Not at any time do we change priority without consent of the board. So I want you to be clear of that. So that is the plan. It's pretty straightforward, and it's not a lot in here like it used to be. It used to be this document was 3 or 4 pages full of roads with a whole lot more funding, but times have changed. And like I said, we've done very well getting the mileages down and building and hard surfacing roads over the last 10, 15 years. We've really made a good dent in it. So this is just a draft. This is what we'll present at the public hearing unless the board directs us to do something different. Now, the next sheet you have, this sheet right here. This is the unpaid road priority list. This is not part of the 6-year plan, but this is just a list of roads that maybe constituents of yours have asked to be put on to be prioritized to go into the 6-year plan. This is only like a holding list, a holding priority. Now, there are 2 roads on here. They're just 2 roads we put on here. These are 2 roads that VDOT had been asked. We had gotten some citizens' concerns on. That's the only reason they're on here. If you have any roads in your district that you want us to be put on this list, please let Susan or I know, and we can add these to this list, and we can present it to the board, and you can set the priorities. If there are any other roads you want to put on this list. But as you can see from the 6-year plan, is what we have in this 6-year plan, it's projecting the funds all the way out through the next 6 years. So anything that we put on this list, unless our funding changes and we get increased allocations, you're looking at 5 or 6 years out. Any road that goes on this list for it actually would be constructed. So with that said, I'll be glad to answer any questions or try to answer any questions that any of the board members may have.
Anyone have any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I've got one.
Mr. Hogan?
This may be Charlotte County's road, but County Line Road from Piney Ridge Road to Old Evergreen, is that maintained by Appomattox, VDOT, or Charlotte? I don't think anybody lives on it, so, well, there's one house on it.
You talking about, is that the road that goes across Cup Creek? That is maintained by,
Little Cub.
yeah, that is Charlotte County. It intersects with 630 and goes back toward Madisonville. Yeah, that's Charlotte County.
That's good.
Okay.
Mr. Brand, let me ask you this. Where is Cedar Bend Road?
Cedar Bend is, I guess, south of Evergreen, back kind of, if you go by, I think Albert Harvey's house, it's a little section of unpaved road that comes out over there. I think it comes out on Cup Creek. It's paved on, it comes out on Cup Creek, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
I'm about getting ready to put my foot in my mouth, but I swear I believe it's either my district or Mr. Hinkle's district.
So we did that bridge replacement in there 3 or 4, probably 5 or 6 years ago in preparation, which the structure needed replacing, but we wanted to do that before, get that paved so we could tie into it with the pavement, but I'm pretty sure that's that road.
Does that go down by Rita Rimmels?
I think it connects.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was gonna
I'm home now. Oh, my. Any other questions for Mr. Brown? Okay, I know you want to hear the start date for our public hearing. Do you have any, I think you did, you
Monday, May 15th.
Susan, what date did we?
made it,
Monday, May 15th.
Monday, May 15th, at 7
Okay.
o'clock.
okay. Is there a motion for a public hearing on May the 15th? It's 7 bells.
We advertise all public hearings at 6.
At 6, okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we authorize a public hearing for May 15th at 6 PM for the VDOT 6-year plan.
Thank you. Is that a second? Discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Chairman
It's
Carter.
always a pleasure to have you
Sir,
come.
good to see everybody.
Well, I certainly do miss the old days.
I do too.
Yeah. He used to bring, for everybody's information, he used to bring country ham biscuits. He'd set up over at the residency.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, yeah. Okay, gentlemen, second item is CAMA, Computer-Aided Mass Appraisal for the Commissioner of the Revenue Office, Mr. Spencer.
Good evening.
Welcome, sir.
So I am here tonight to talk about the CAMA system, which is Computer-Assisted Mass Appraisal. And so that is what it is. It's used during mostly the field work of the reassessment period, but it's used basically every day in the Commissioner of Revenue's office. So it's something that they have used since for the past 3 reassessments going back to about 2008. Our current system is a small module within the Bright or BAI software. Ace is kind of scrolling through some screenshots. That's actually the drawing of the perimeter of the house that you'd see kind of put in, east 50, and you try to go all around the perimeter like that. And so that's what the commissioner staff does, and that's what they see whenever they use it. And so it's a green screen. It's not exactly user-friendly. It's a little cumbersome, especially in the drawing part. And one of the issues also is that if we do move away from the Bright software for the treasurer and the commissioner, which is something that is being talked about and being planned for the next few years, then this will go away. So there will need to be some sort of a CAMA system that would replace it. So probably the better part of 10 years, we've talked about possibly going to a third-party system that would upgrade what we have. So why would we do it now? Well, again, we're talking about possibly moving the treasurer and commissioner off of the Bright software, but also we're doing it with an eye towards the reassessment, which the field work will start next fall, the fall of 2024. So, you're talking about a 8-month job, has to be training. They have to be comfortable with using it in the commissioner's office before you get into the field work. And then at that point, whichever reassessment firm we use will be entering data into that system. So it's the perfect opportunity right now heading into the next reassessment. So as we move on, one of the things that we have done through the years, like I said, is interviewed a number of CAMA systems, and One of the one that I think that was liked the best out of all of them, and one is one of the more reasonable priced ones, is Concise Camera, which is actually a small company out of Roanoke. And Concise got its start out of a tragedy 10, 12 years ago when half a dozen counties lost the person who was doing their camera, and they had no passwords, no source code, no anything. They turned to the gentleman that runs Concise. He got them all whole. Several of them, including Mecklenburg and Lunenburg, have been working with him ever since. Concise has 10 counties in Virginia now. Like I said, Lunenburg, Mecklenburg, they also have Surrey, Northumberland, Orange, and Clark. They are finishing up Washington County down in the Bristol area. So the timing works right. They're finishing them up April, May. Then in June, so to speak, they could start with us. So as you scroll through, as Ace is scrolling through there, you'll see that it's quite a bit of difference from what you saw with the Bright system. The wealth of information, it's pretty easy for, once obviously a little bit of training, it's pretty easy for staff to enter data into the system. The barely, routinely you only have to go down one level, one screen to get the information. There's not a whole lot of digging down screen after screen after screen. They make it very easy to find. It's, fast, efficient, easy to read. You can attach documents, you can attach photos, you can flag notes as either public or private. If Commissioner's Office just wants to write a private note that only they can see concerning a particular parcel, maybe it's somebody's best phone number at work so we can get a hold of them because we need to talk to them about something. But, things like that only they would see, or you can flag it as public that everybody would see. Multiple parcels can be open for viewing at the same time. It offers all kinds of detailed breakdown of factors that affect your property valuations, and it leaves a full audit trail every time that there is a change in that record. It does leave an audit trail. And I will also say, Ace, if you could go to that website real quick. I'm sorry, I forgot the other thing, but go to the website if you would. They actually have a web application that they offer for each of the counties, and what you end up with is a lot of information in a good, concise manner that you can link into your regular county website, and that's all right if you can't get it up. But basically, you can attach. You see the pictures, you see everything. That it ends up being a very modern, very practical looking, without being over the top fancy, and it's nice, clear, and concise. So, I think our internet's a little slow right now, the way it looks. That.
We're not on Firefly then.
No, we need to be.
But anyway, so yeah, I think he's there now. So that's what that is Orange County, and that's just a particular property. I picked the National Trust property, and it shows everything about the property, the value of the different part. You see the different photographs, you'll see all of that, and that is something that is included in this package so that the public will be able to see much more readily this type of information, which should cut down on the number of phone calls and other inquiries to the Commissioner's Office. So it's just, like I said, it's modern, it's concise, it's to the point, and without being overdone. Up there on the right is the outline. The outline looks a whole lot different than what it did on Bright. And we actually have a little video. You don't have to, we don't have to watch that, Ace, but how easy it is to actually make the drawings. I think that they said it can take 20 minutes maybe to make the drawing in Bright sometimes on some of the more complicated houses, where in a matter of just a couple minutes you could have the same house drawn over. It's a lot of point and click, a lot of drag and drop, has all kinds of angles and everything else, and it just, like I said, in a matter of minutes. So it really, obviously, it calculates out your square footage for you. So, it does a lot of neat modern things that will save staff time and effort. So now let's get into the more, what's it cost? Again, this is something that it is it's a modern program that is, there's a lot of customization for us. A lot of the same between the various counties, but there's always some customization involved. And it ends up being the program itself and the installation and the first year hosting is $133,762. And, like I said, we have looked at others through the years that did not have as good a functionality. We looked at some that, one in particular that was originally cheaper, but in a matter of a year, almost doubled their price, so they're way up above these guys now. And this has always, I think, been the one that has kind of been the favorite. And I keep looking at Ms. Henderson, but it's one that we have looked at several times over the past, we probably demoed with them 3 times in the past 6-7 years. And their company is growing. So there will be a few things like this does not include the server, does not include any kinds of cloud. So whichever way we decide, we'll have to, we'll have some payments with that. Any fees that we might have to pay to Bright, Timmons, RDA, anybody else that we are working to integrate with, that would be in addition as well. And once you get past year 1, so for year 2, your annual support is going to be $17,189 that year 2, and there's a small escalation factor, so it will go up a little bit every year.
Second year was how much?
So again, it's $133, almost $134,000. The purchase will be made piggybacking on an existing contract with Orange County. That has been approved by Mr. Latchney. So we would be using that contract mechanism. And the timeline for this, as I alluded to a few minutes ago, they would begin in June, if not a little bit earlier, depending on when exactly this is approved by Appomattox County and also exactly when they finish up with Washington County. They would project to go live in May of 2024. The reason that it ended up being more like an 11-month project as opposed to 7 or 8 I mentioned a few moments ago is that they will work with the commissioner's office to kind of work around their busy points in the year. And so that tends to stretch the project out. There will be some training in the last 2 weeks before going live. And then once they go live, there will be about 4 months or so before we start the field work then for the next reassessment. So by that time, Ms. Henderson's staff should be proficient in using that. Of course, all of the data, this company would translate all the data over to the new system and make sure everything is working. We would also get the source code because I told you that this company grew out of a tragedy. He wants to make sure that all of his clients are never put in that same position We have passwords, we have source codes. If something were to happen to his company overnight, we would have our data. So, does anybody have any questions?
Any questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Hogan?
would this be compatible with our GIS system, or is it kind of going to replace what we have now?
It is not going to replace, it would complement it. But yes, it is something that, what I think typically happens is that your information for your GIS system basically comes out of your CAMA, comes out of that database. And so I guess it really starts at reassessment. They do something a little different than Bright. Don't you have a company one and a company two? And so when you approve your reassessment, your company two now becomes your primary, and that's the one you use. And then that's the information then that gets sent off to the website, to Timmons. And there are other concise customers that also use Timmons. So there's also some possibility for some interaction with RDA. And so some of that stuff, depending on how I guess we feel about certain things going forward, there's some opportunities for some other interactions beyond just the website.
And just to follow up, the annual percentage increase for maintenance that was built into the contract, you got any idea what
Yeah,
software, all software's got a built-in increase
Yeah.
every year, but
I believe it was 5%. I forgot to write the number down, but I believe it was 5%. The escalations were pretty small, and they're a few $100 a year.
that's typical.
Oh, I had one question, Mr. Spencer.
Yes, sir.
The training,
Yes,
so that would incorporate the first year, and the first year is 130, what is 134,000.
correct.
That does include training.
It includes training, and it basically includes everything, everything really except for the server and whatever. If you want to do a server on site, if you want to do cloud hosting, whatever arrangement, then that's something that will be extra. So on top of this is just the program.
Off the top of your head, what's the amount of a server these days?
I have told Ms. Adams that I would suggest adding an extra 10,000 to that for all of the above. Server isn't going to cost you that much, but depending on what configuration you do, you could do a on-site server and back up to the cloud, which you would still have to pay for. You could do cloud hosting and back up to the cloud, which is all you have to pay for. So I figure that an extra 10,000, hopefully as a contingency for all of that.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I got one more.
Mr. Hogan?
What do we pay for maintenance on Bright now?
For that, it is built into their system. So we're paying around 18,000, I believe, if I remember correctly, for that. It's for the treasure, but it's for everything. So it's kind of hard. You can't just break this out. And of course, when you go away from Bright, you have some additional that you're going to have to pay the RDA every year because you would be using more of their resources. And so everything that's kind of going to cloud-based, you end up with a lot of annual support fees.
Any other questions?
Who does the entry, the crossover between the old system and this system?
The data conversion, it will be this company.
So your office is not gonna be, that's good, right?
Yes. Of course, I guess we'll be working with them for accuracy and all that, way before we go live. We have to.
And
They are going to be doing all that.
And there will be just different decision points, I believe, that Ms. Henderson will, maybe if they like one thing a certain way versus the other. I think, like I said, there's a few little customizable pieces in there. But it is turnkey that this company does it all.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Adams.
there's a couple of things I think Mr. Spencer didn't mention is why we've been trying to look at a different solution. And one, the Bright system is the IBM-based financial system that we've been talking about for several years. He had checked with other localities that use the Bright system, and none of them, they all have a separate CAMA system.
I think all but about 3.
Yeah.
Out of like all of their clients, I think there was only 3 that I found that actually used the Bright system other than us.
And I think the other thing is being cloud-based, what we realized during COVID is working remotely. And with the cloud-based backup, you're able to access it anywhere through the internet. So
That's good.
those were 2 factors that have been taken into consideration also.
Correct. And then what we were finding out also with Ms. Henderson's office during COVID was we had to give them VPN access into our network and then into the AS400, et cetera, et cetera. So if they were working from home during COVID time when we had split offices and et cetera, that ended up being somewhat problematic. It just didn't work the smoothest, did it? So the Bright system, the IBM system, was not necessarily made with remote access in mind. I mean, it does it, but it just wasn't that smooth.
Can I say one thing? We actually looked at this product several years ago. Because we're having so many issues with the GIS, that we were looking for a better solution. And we really like, and my staff really likes this product. They've actually, I've had some old people that have left and new people come in, and they both have seen this product, and they all seem to really like the product. Think so it can be a lot easier for data entry and that kind of thing. So they've already gotten a feel for what it's gonna be like, and they all seem to like it.
Any additional questions for Mr. Spencer?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Hogan?
Hasn't this been on our long-term capital improvement list for a while?
Probably, I think that's what, when we were talking about it long before anything was bright, we were talking about it. But like I said, it's been several years ago that we talked about it.
So you don't have to sell me on the product, but how are we gonna pay for it?
We have
Ms.
funds
Adams?
we have funds in capital project, in our capital project reserve.
Okay. That was the next very important question.
Well, and, as I think about it too, I sent Ms. Marshall a text. Because of the remote access, it's a possibility that we could utilize the ARPA funds for that as well.
That would be great.
But, we've got to verify that, but I hadn't thought about it till you said something, then it's like, we might
That's
have a funding for it.
Very true.
Any additional questions? Thank you, Mr. Spencer. You've done a good job.
Thank you. Thank you, Ace.
All right, my fellow board members, what's your take? Want to approve this? Mr. Hinkle?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the computer-aided software, the CAMA system for the revenue office.
Motion duly made, is that second? Second. Discussion. And you heard how the monetary funds would come about.
So just so I'm clear, Mr. Chairman, we've got the funds in our capital improvement account now to recover this, or ARPA funds.
We'll try ARPA funds first, if that's okay with the board.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's a no-brainer. Further discussion? We'll have a roll call vote. Mr. Hips. Reverend Jones. Mr. Hinkle.
Aye.
Mr. Hogan.
Aye.
I also vote aye. Okay. Moving right on into the 21st century. And we said we can go before 7 o'clock, right? On public hearings.
Anytime.
Okay. All right, next we have a public hearing on sale of property on Swan Road. As duly advertised, public hearing has been scheduled for the Appomattox County Board of Supervisors to receive comments and consider the sale of county-owned property located on Swan Road. The property is identified as tax map identification number 93A 18A and a total of 1.46 acres in size. The property is approximately 3.5 miles north of Richmond Highway on the eastern side of Swan Road in the Pamplin area. Written proposals were submitted to the county administration by the date of supervisors' meeting. Anyone here to speak in regards to this public hearing on Swan Road, on this property?
Nobody signed up.
Nobody signed up. Anybody here like to speak regardless whether you signed up or not? No one, okay. Is there a motion then to approve this, the sale of property?
Is that to sell the property or, and then do a, look at the bids? Is it two separate things?
Is that what they're voting on, authorized to dispose of it and then?
Well, they can do it either way.
How?
If they want to discuss the bids and say which one they want, they can just do it all in one motion.
And this is the bids here.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Hogan.
I would be in favor of disposing of the property. The county doesn't need it. It was given to the county at no cost to the taxpayer. We have 3 bids, 2 by adjoining landowners and 1 by a developer. I would prefer, my personal feeling is that we should look at the adjoining landowners first. I probably need to disclose that I'm related to one of these people. And so Mr. Lashney has told me I can vote because I'm not close enoughly related that it matters. But I still feel like I need to say that one of these 2 adjoining landowners is my uncle. But I do feel like we ought to give the surrounding landowners first option.
Mr. Rourke, do you have or is there a presence on that in a situation like this? In regards to the landowner first?
It's totally the board's discretion. I mean, you can, basically, I think what Mr. Hogan is suggesting is giving it to an adjacent owner is selling it to an adjacent owner is more beneficial to the county. That's what you're considering. Money isn't the only thing you're analyzing when you determine if it's beneficial to the county. You need to analyze the overall impact, so I don't want to speak for Mr. Hogan, but I think that's what he was saying.
Yeah. Very
Which is perfectly okay. This board can decide, we can sell it to whoever we want.
Very well said.
And if I might add one thing, I know one of the adjoining parcels is in the conservation easement, which the whole purpose of that is not to develop that particular area of farmland. And that's what the developer would do, is attempt to put a house on it. I don't even know that he could. It would be.
A lot would have to be done to see if he could. It's possible. But one of the things that he came into the office today, and one of the things that he was talking about, there's basically one place on the northern end of the property that you could meet the setbacks and whatnot to get a structure in there, probably a single wide. But the property hasn't been perked. So what if that's the one place where it perks, then, so yeah, that's up in the air at this point.
Okay.
May I ask the county
Yes,
attorney
ma'am.
a question? Is this property was wheeled to the Parks and Rec, is that correct?
Yeah, the
How
property
it,
is wheeled
okay,
to the Parks and Rec Department, and it's currently in the name of the county.
okay.
Yeah, we didn't pay anything for it.
Right. Any other discussion with the board? Well, I will say myself that, yeah, I agree that, the adjacent property owner, or not necessarily the adjacent property owner, but, residents nearby or whatever, in my opinion, too, should have first choice at it. When something like that comes about. Maybe we can do all this in one motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Mr. Hinkle.
I agree with Mr. Hogan, too. I think that, so to speak, keep it in the family. And I would make a motion that we authorize sale of this property, and I would add to Mr. Woolsey for $4,900.
Yes, sir. Motion duly made, is there a second? I'll second it. Now, discussion, further discussion? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote. Mr. Hips. Reverend Jones. Mr. Hinkle.
Aye.
Mr. Hogan.
I'm gonna abstain, Mr. Chairman, just due to my, even though it's not a legal connection that close enough that I have to abstain, I'm gonna abstain from this vote.
Okay. I'll vote aye. Okay. Very good. Next is public hearing utility easement of the Appomattox Volunteer Fire Department Training Facility. As duly advertised, public hearing has been scheduled for the Appomattox County Board of Supervisors to receive comments and consider granting a utility easement to the Appomattox Volunteer Fire Department on property owned by Appomattox County and located on 3007 Morning Star Road in order to allow for the installation of electric service to a fire training facility. Anyone here to speak in favor or against this? Anyone sign up back there first? Hey, nobody? Okay. Nobody here to speak? We're gonna move on down the road then. Okay. Here's our motion. Authorizing staff to execute the deed of easement to the Appomattox. Got a motion, has a second. Discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay. Moving on into action items, schools appropriation request for FY 22 end of year spending CIP fund. Per an agreement between the school board and the Board of Supervisors, the school end of the year local contribution savings will be transferred to the school capital improvement fund after the official audit is performed and reported to the Board of Supervisors. The amount of year-end savings verified by the FY 22 audit is $7,222,602. Attached for the board's review is a letter from Dr. Bennett requesting the balance of unspent funds to be transferred to the capital improvement funds. Floor is open for discussion. This is kind of in line what the school's been.
It's the policy, the MOU that was developed between the
Oh,
county
yeah,
and the school.
yeah. But I was just,
And I did verify that in FY '22 budget
uh-huh.
audit, that it is 722,602.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Hinkle.
I move that the school be allowed to transfer $722,602 into the school's capital improvement fund.
That's it, all right, discussion? Well, I have to say they done good. So, we'll have a roll call vote.
Did we get a second?
Yeah, Mr. Hips. Roll call vote, Mr. Hips. Reverend Jones.
Aye.
Mr. Hinkle.
Aye.
Mr. Hogan.
Aye.
I also vote aye. Resolution, Virginia opioid, that's a hard one for me to say, abatement authority grant funds. As part of the Commonwealth of Virginia's opioid abatement settlement, the Opioid Abatement Authority, which is OAA, was established by the Central General Assembly, Central General Assembly in 2021 as an independent entity to abate and I don't know what's wrong with me, I can't read here. Can't talk. Epidemic in the Commonwealth through financial report from the Virginia Opioid Abatement Fund. Localities receive funding from the settlement in two ways, direct disbursement and through the OAA. Each city and county in Virginia is eligible to receive a specific amount of OAA funding in accordance with the state MOU. In order to obtain these funds, the city or county is required to agree to certain terms and conditions and must apply to the OAA for approval for the use of those funds. Discussion on this? How much work is into this, Ms. Adams? I know it's just,
For the application,
yeah.
I will say we've got 3 good staff members working on this project, and they've been able to put together that application,
All right.
so.
Question from the board?
And this is all, part of the settlement, no county funds would be used.
No county
Yeah.
funds, it's all of the settlement of those different entities. I think it's spelled out in the application. It's like Walgreens and Walmart and Janssen. Yeah.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that we approve the resolution.
Motion duly made, is that second?
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of this, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay. And we have completed number 7. Down to number 8, schedule FY budget public hearing. This is where, in it, we need to have a motion on the tax levy too. Is that correct, Ms. Adams?
That's correct.
For May 15th.
That's our regular meeting night, right? Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we authorize staff to advertise a public hearing for the fiscal year '24 budget on May the 15th at 6 p.m. to include the current levies with no increases.
Motion duly made, is that second?
Second.
Further discussion? Let's have a roll call vote. Mr. Hips? Reverend Jones? Mr. Hinkle?
Aye.
Mr. Hogan?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Okay. Next is schedule a public hearing, conditional use permit 220931 Verizon Wireless. Mr. Rourke, anything you want to add to this or comment on?
So this is a petition for a new cell tower up on Holiday Lake Road, in the area of the county that needs service up in that part of the county. So these folks have been working for about 6 months now on this petition. So it's finally coming forward to you guys. Hopefully, it's scheduled a public hearing for next month.
Okay. Any questions concerning this?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr.
is
Hogan?
this the same one that came before the planning commission and they
It was tabled.
sent it back or they tabled it? And then, so what were, well, I guess, what were the issues that they sent it back for? Or do you know?
Should we get into this,
Or that
is this
something
okay to
that
get
kind of
into
gets
now?
those questions?
since we're just getting? Okay, okay. There was a neighbor that had some issues with the original location, so at that public hearing, with the between Plan Commission, the petitioner, and the neighbor, they worked on a new location, and then the Verizon folks had to go back and essentially start from scratch, because they had to redesign the whole site. They had to do their whole RF again and all of that. So that one of the reasons why it's taken so long is by moving it. They moved it roughly 350, 400 feet away from the neighbor.
Has the neighbor been satisfied? Or-
I'm not going to say that.
Okay.
Any additional questions? Is there a motion then to authorize staff to schedule and advertise a public hearing on May 15th on this CUP?
I'll make a motion that we advertise the public hearing for May 15th for a conditional use permit for the cell tower.
Motion made and second. Discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Next, gentlemen, is the consent agenda. Includes approval of all bills, minutes, supplemental appropriations, line item transfers, and fund transfers. Any item on the consent agenda shall be removed from the consent agenda at the request of any board member prior to the vote on the consent agenda. Items removed from the consent agenda shall be considered by the board individually in order in which they were removed by the consent agenda immediately following consideration of the consent agenda. And I hope everyone's had the opportunity to look over the consent agenda as is. Any questions, any comments? I had one, and now I can't find it. But it's to do with the water line. There it is. What's telecommunications?
The phone lines. From the water tower.
Okay,
That alerts them if there are any leaks or.
It tells leaks, or it works with the SCADA system, so it tells when the pumps to cut on and off.
okay,
It's a communication that's required.
right, okay. Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Hogan?
the donation to cover the vet expenses for the horses, is that somebody local or do we know?
No, that was the person who owned the horses.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So they're reimbursing us for our costs. Gotcha.
Is that pretty much put to bed now?
Not quite.
Not quite?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments? If not, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as is?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion
to
approve the consent agenda as presented.
Motion made, is that second?
Second.
Motion second. Any additional conversation in regard to this? We'll have a roll call vote. Mr. Hips? Mr. Reverend Jones? Mr. Hinkle?
Aye.
Mr. Hogan? I also vote aye. Mr. Latchney? Thank you. Mrs. Adams?
No comments, Mr. Chairman. No, I have before you, I gave each one of you the newsletter, and it basically talks about the data from all the different departments. And if you have additional questions or would like information, please feel free to reach out to me.
Now, that rescues squad calls, Concord had to answer 8 of them. Is that what that means?
Well, that could
They
be-
may have assisted too, right?
That could be Concord's first due in Appomattox County.
Okay. And Ms. Adams, congratulations on meeting with the town manager.
Hopefully, we can come up with collaborate on a plan that will help fund some of the emergency services request. We've started the conversation. We agreed that we should possibly look at maybe forming an MOU between the town and the county to figure out how we can set aside funding for when there are issues with purchasing of fire trucks or possibly in the future rescue squads or something else.
Okay.
And our IT department's gonna take on a new look. We're looking at website design, a new website design, and also changing our email provider, and just adding some new software updates and moving into the 21st century, like you said earlier.
Yes, yes. Mr. Hibbs.
Just a question came to mind. What happened with the Horizon Board question we had asked last month?
That's a good question, Ms.
Would you like me to address that?
You go ahead and
Yeah.
address that.
We had several communications trying to coordinate a meeting, so finally we have a Zoom meeting scheduled in May. So we'll be participating at that time.
Any other questions, comments? Well, thank you, Ms. Adams, for submitting this report. It's very helpful. All right, next we'll move into supervisor concerns. Mr. Hibbs. Reverend Jones.
Yes, I have one concern. I have a family that contacted me from Bellevue Road. The trash has become so egregious that it's not just trash, it's people dumping furniture, TVs, and they are just very frustrated. And I wanted to see if the board had any recommendations of anything we could do. I mean, can we provide any kind of surveillance when it gets this egregious? You know, the landowner is just saying something needs to be done.
We could continue down this road of expressing our concern in our VIA, VDOT. Can we not, Ms. Allen?
We can, and we've also expressed it to, trash pickup crews and stuff, but unfortunately, there's not anybody available that can, I think the sheriff had communicated that to be able to supervise a pickup crew. He didn't have any extra staff members, and VDOT, they're kind of not in that business anymore, unfortunately.
Can any kind of surveillance be done?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Hogan?
Yeah, I mean, picking up what's dumped already there is one thing. We need to prevent it from happening,
Yeah.
for it to continue to happen. And we passed an ordinance last year, that made it with $500 fine, for littering. And, I would suggest that we maybe talk to the sheriff about,
Investigate.
some extra patrols in that area or something. Catch the folks doing it, and you hit them with a $500 fine, maybe they'll stop.
Sure.
And the judge might make them pick it up, clean it up.
That's even better.
I don't know if it would be, it may even rise to the level of an illegal dump site. But if they're dumping on somebody's land, that may fall back on the landowner as opposed to the litterers. And I wouldn't want that, wouldn't want the landowner to be held liable for having an illegal dump for somebody else dumping on his land, but it's becoming a problem everywhere. And I think we've got that ordinance, I think we need to use it. Now, if you don't catch them throwing it out, but there are ways to find out who did it.
They have cameras, maybe they could put up a camera.
Very good. I'm glad you brought that up, Reverend Jones.
And the $500 fine that's looked up is the minimum. It can be up to 1,000 before it can impose a $1,000 fine for first offense. Second offense, it's between 1,000 and 2,500. So maybe if you offer the sheriff a bulk of that money.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Anything else? Thank you. Mr. Hinkle?
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to mention that under the Central Virginia Workforce Development, our numbers of participation or service to Appomattox residents, the last period for 2021, they serviced 51 residents from Appomattox County. For 2022, that number increased to 210.
Oh, man.
And Appomattox County now chairs the Chief Elected Officials Board that overlooks the workforce development, so we have a little bit more input into that, and I'm working to see if we can expose the Appomattox residents to more of their services, because they do have a lot of services that go from helping kids that can't graduate, that are having trouble and won't graduate high school, getting them on-the-job training. They've got different workshops, for people that want to improve their skills, and these workshops are free. For example, time management, communication, building a better resume, leadership development. I mean, there's a whole list of workshops that they offer for people. And we could, if we had enough residents interested, we could have those workshops in our community center.
And by the way, congratulations. Mr. Hogan?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I appreciated the inclusion of those minutes from the Workforce Development Board in the packet. Some useful information in there. Congratulations to being elected to the chair, Mr. Hinkle. That's it, thank you.
Okay. I don't have anything. And upon saying that, we need to engage in a closed session.
You ready?
Yes, sir.
Whereas the Board of Supervisors of Appomattox County desires to discuss and closely the following matters: consultation with legal counsel before the retained by the public body regarding specific legal matters requiring the legal advice by such counsel concerning the library board and the county water assets. And whereas pursuant to section 2.23711A8 of the Code of Virginia, such discussions may occur in closed resolved that the Board of Supervisors of Appomattox County does hereby authorize discussion of four stated matters in closed meeting. Need that as a motion.
Motion.
Mr. Chairman, what he said in a motion.
Motion duly made, is that second? Second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All right, we're going to move into closed session.